There is a distinct, suffocating weight to the dead of night. It's a time when the rest of the world is fast asleep, leaving you entirely alone with your thoughts. We like to believe that the walls of our homes are a fortress, a sacred boundary that keeps the dangers of the outside world at bay. But sometimes, darkness brings something worse than just the absence of light. Sometimes, it brings unwanted visitors, creatures of habit, or worse, people with motives so twisted they defy explanation. What you are about to hear are 3 chilling, true stories of individuals who thought they were safe in the comfort of their own homes, only to realize that the night was watching them back. From uninvited guests on the roof to terrifying figures lingering at the glass, these experiences will make you second-guess every creak, every shadow, and every sudden noise in your house. The Rooftop Prowler. Growing up, my teeth were an absolute mess. Because of that, I ended up getting my wisdom teeth removed much later than most people, well after I had already graduated from college. The recovery process was a living hell. The pain was so excruciating that sleeping through the night became impossible without a strict medication schedule. I had to set an alarm to wake myself up every 3 hours, cycling between 2 different painkillers, just to keep the agonizing toothaches at bay. My body quickly adapted to this broken, unnatural, 3-hour sleep cycle. Honestly, I didn't even feel human anymore. I felt like a ghost, haunting my own room. About a week into my recovery, I woke up at 4 a.m. for my scheduled dose. This time, however, sleep refused to take me back. To make matters worse, the AC had suddenly died, and my bedroom was suffocatingly hot. Tossing and turning in frustration, I finally gave up and cracked the window open, hoping for a breeze. As I lay there in the dark, praying for exhaustion to set in, a strange noise cut through the silence. It was a sharp, rhythmic, scratching sound, coming from right outside. Since I never slept with my window open, I tried to convince myself it was just some nocturnal animal. But the longer I listened, the more uneasy I felt. It didn't sound like it was on the ground. It sounded like claws dragging across the roof, directly above my head. Slowly, the scratching moved across the ceiling and faded toward the front of the house. We lived in a heavily wooded area, so we were no strangers to raccoons or pests. But knowing how furious my dad would be if another animal burrowed into our attic, I knew I had to act. Besides, I was wide awake. I threw off the covers, slipped out of my room, and crept into the garage to grab one of my dad's heavy-duty flashlights. My bedroom was on the first floor at the back of the house, where the roofline was lowest. I stepped out into the backyard and swept the powerful beam of light across the shingles. Nothing. I sighed, assuming the creature had already moved to the other side. Determined to scare it off for good, I began walking around the perimeter of the house, illuminating the roof as I went. As I reached the front yard, where the roof peaks nearly twice as high, a sudden movement caught the edge of my vision. I flicked my wrist, snapping the flashlight beam directly onto the spot. My heart instantly dropped into my stomach. It wasn't a raccoon. It wasn't an animal at all. Standing on the steep slope of our roof, frozen in the blinding white light, was a fully grown, completely naked human being. A primal scream escaped my throat before I could stop it. The moment the sound left my mouth, the figure reacted. It was as if the light itself was burning them. They began moving with terrifying speed. An unnatural, frantic scramble that shouldn't have been possible barefoot on uneven shingles. They were heading right back toward the lower roof, near my bedroom. Adrenaline took over. Instead of running back inside where it was safe, a reckless instinct drove me to intercept them. Dad! Dad, get out here! I screamed at the top of my lungs as I sprinted around the house. I rounded the corner to the backyard, just in time to see the person crouching at the edge of the roof, preparing to leap. From that height, a fall onto the concrete patio below meant shattered bones. There was no way they would jump. But they didn't hesitate. The figure launched themselves into the air, hitting the stone pavers with a sickening, deafening thud. For a split second, I froze in sheer disbelief, expecting them to be writhing in pain. Instead, the person snapped upright instantly, locked eyes with me, and charged. Before I could raise my hands, I was tackled violently to the ground. The intruder began clawing maniacally at my face, their fingernails digging into my skin as if trying to rip my eyes out. They were grunting, spitting, and possessing a terrifying, ungodly strength. I kicked and screamed, but I couldn't throw them off. Warm blood began pouring down my face, and in that horrifying moment, I genuinely believed I was going to die. Then, the back door burst open. Through the chaos, I heard my dad yelling at the top of his lungs. He flew into the fray, violently tearing the attacker away from me. I scrambled backward on the pavement, gasping for air, just in time to see the psycho break free from my dad's grip. The stranger was completely smeared with my blood. Instead of continuing the fight, the intruder turned, bolted to the edge of our yard, scaled our high wooden fence in one fluid motion, and vanished into the pitch-black woods. My dad and I stood there in breathless shock as the sound of snapping branches faded into the distance. The rest of the night was a blur of flashing lights and adrenaline. I had lost a significant amount of blood, and my dad nearly crashed the car trying to get me to the ER. The doctors spent hours cleaning the deep lacerations on my face and pumping me full of preventative shots to ward off any diseases the attacker might have carried. Miraculously, my jaw and mouth were untouched, so my dental recovery remained on track. The police search yielded nothing. They claimed that tracking someone through such a vast, dense forest in the dead of night was virtually impossible, offhandedly suggesting we invest in security cameras next time. When daylight came, my dad inspected the roof. He found deep, violent gouges near the attic vents. The stranger hadn't just been standing up there. They had been trying to dig their way into our house with their bare hands. While my dad and I tried to shake it off, the incident deeply traumatized my mother, who insisted on upgrading our home into a literal fortress. To this day, I have no logical explanation for what happened. Who that person was, where they came from, and why they chose our house are questions that will haunt me for the rest of my life. That's all for tonight, from the Whispers of the Dark. If these stories chilled you to the bone, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Help us uncover the other realities lurking in the shadows. And remember, some nightmares don't wait until you're asleep. They are standing right behind you, right now. Lock your doors tight tonight. See you in the dark.